Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. Yes, let's first bring you up to speed on a situation at an HBCU, North Carolina A&T, how they might have more students, which is leading to more problems. I'm going to share with you some of the financial conundrum that North Carolina A&T find themselves in. Also, we're going to get an update about that Philadelphia Juvenile Detention Center, where the city of Philadelphia is going to be suing the state of Pennsylvania. We're going to check back in with Online Culture crew member and advocate and activist Taylor Ferguson to get some details about that situation. And then later on, can we talk a little bit about what's happening with the AMAs and Chris Brown? I'm asking the question, is Black music dying? AMA has decided to cancel Chris Brown's Michael Jackson's 40th anniversary tribute to the album of Thriller, but many people are saying that this might be a sign that Black music is dying. I'm gonna share with you what Jermaine Dupri had to say about this situation and a whole lot more. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. I wanted to, let's jump right into it, folks, because we got some great conversations lined up for you. And first and foremost, happy Tuesday. Now, I want to let you know that today is the last day of the week for live shows here on the culture because of Thanksgiving. So we're taking just a few days off, just a few days break. But that doesn't mean that you can't continue to support us because we are going to be streaming past shows, of course, over the next next few days and other content. So make sure you check us out at blackstarnetwork.com. Go to our website and you can download the app for free and certainly subscribe for free. And most importantly, continue to show your support for Black-owned media. So make sure you go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com and you can get all of the latest news and information there. And more importantly, continue to support us here on this fantastic platform. All right, folks, let's jump right into a conversation that I have seen, and I think it needs to have more attention. This is the situation. It's still on a national level, but among folks, among Black America, I think it needs to be at the forefront of some of the issues that we may expect to see that's going to challenge HBCUs. And this is the issue of what's going on down at North Carolina A&T. Here's the situation, folks. Take a look. Apparently, North Carolina A&T has attracted so many students. There has been a greater interest in HBCUs across the country that to the point where the funding is now being cut nearly $2 million from the state, from this HBCU's funding, because the school is too popular. Too popular, folks. Yeah, apparently they're having their funding stripped away because the move says that some equates to the states punishing the HBCUs for success at attracting students. Are you kidding me? Here's the latest. Let me share with you what Yahoo and what the reports are coming out that's saying that the funding move stems from the rules. And let's put this up there on a Keenan and Ariel, put this quote up in here. This is the report that we saw. The funding move stems from the rules governing funding of state universities in North Carolina that are designed to ensure that in-state students aren't shut out of a competitive admissions process. The rules calls for limits on the percentage of out-of-state students in each class, and were mostly intended for larger schools in the North Carolina system, such as UNC Chapel Hill, which has nearly 25,000 students. Now, North Carolina A&T has about half of that, with just over 13,000 students, about 11,000 of which are full-time. But lately, the campus has seen an influx of interest and applications, part of a wave of renewed interest in HBCUs broadly. The result is that the current freshman class went over its limit for out-of-state tuitions by 171 enrollees. That triggered the University of North Carolina System's Board of Governors to vote to decrease funding for the campus in the current fiscal year by $1,976,546. Wow. So they're basically saying, folks, that they have a limitation on how many out-of-state students are allowed to go. And this speaks volumes. And we can't get into a big, broad conversation today as much as I wanted to just put this out there. But think about this, folks. And if you're down in North Carolina, if you're familiar with this situation, post your thoughts and comments in our chat as we're streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and Black Star Network. But take a look at this, folks. This is the result of simply 171 more students that's allowed for the state, for the limit of this agreement for this HBCU. And as a result of that overextension of students, or that extra amount of students, nearly $2 million is going to be taken from the university. This sounds crazy. This sounds beyond crazy to me, folks. I mean, I've never heard that you got too many students in college, therefore we're going to take money back. Now, here's the thing about this, folks. Let me just make sure. There certainly has been some pushback, but the greater pushback is going to come from us and from around the country and just Black America. And I think even, all folks can to attest to this, that this is a crazy ass rule that's being imposed on the University, on North Carolina A&T. And again, let me know your thoughts as we're talking about this. Now, here's what one of the board members said, and I don't keen in the area if we could post this or we could put this up on the screen, but board member by the name of Joel Ford of Charlotte, he asked, this is quote number 2, he asked that the vote on the decision be pulled from the consent agenda for discussion Thursday. The issue, he said, was discussed at length Wednesday when board members held various committee meetings. This happened last week. He said, essentially, I cannot support this particular item punishing an historically minority serving institution. So they call it HMSI, not HBCU. Interesting. But he said, I can't support this particular item punishing an HMSI, Mr. Chairman, for being successful. Now, he said this during last week's meeting. He said, we have out-of-state students who want to attend one of our institutions because of its history and because of their ability to make good and deliver on a promise to provide a high-quality education. I want y'all to think about it. I want us to raise some sort of alarm that this is the challenge facing HBCUs, right? The challenge facing can I keep it real? I'm gonna keep it so real right now, y'all. This is like the state treating the HBCU like a child, right? You can't do this. You can't, we gave you limitations on how far you can grow. We gave you limitations on how much progress you can make. We gave you limitations on how many students you can enroll. And if you go over that, we're going to penalize you. Now, this is happening in 2022, folks. This ain't 20 years ago, 30 years ago. This is 2022. So that means that in the state of North Carolina, they're going to be looking at this and treating this is acceptable. This is acceptable. My concern is, folks, is that when we look at other HBCUs, and this is why it's important, Brother Michael Imhotep, he talks about this often, to know the laws and the history. You got to know both, right? Because this is unacceptable that a school is put under this type of sanction. And this is what, and I'm very particular about using this word in this context, folks. It is like a sanction, like a small country type of sanction. He's very particular about this situation to the point where they're imposing this type of control over students, over the money, and over the largest success of this situation. Man, this situation is crazy, folks. And I want to get your take on this. I really do want to get your take on this, because I can't even believe that we're at this point with HBCUs. All right, let me get to some of your comments. Let me get to some of your comments, because I know many people, and I know some of you are actually products of HBCU. So I want to hear what you got to say. Janelle, you checked in my sister. You say, hey, Farajii, is this a new regulation or is it an order that has never been reviewed? It probably sounds like it's an order that's never been reviewed. Janelle, I'm because they say that this is part of the books, and let me take a look here. But it sounds like, yeah, this is something that has been in the books. The funding move stems from the rules governing funding of state universities. So the thinking was that they want to make sure that enough in-state students are able to take advantage of the educational institution versus out-of-state students. So the thinking is that if they do enough in-state students, you know what I mean, to give them opportunity, which I understand, right? Because as a HBCU, you want to make sure that the people locally has the opportunity. But the problem is, when you start removing money from the conversation, there's a way to control or regulate that situation. But to start removing money, $2 million, nearly $2 million, that's the problem. Let me see here. Let's go back to and then Janelle, that's a great question. So I appreciate you for saying that. Karen Jones, you said, because the school is too popular, I'm not understanding the scenario. Yeah, because the school has more applicants than it had in previous years, had more students that are enrolling. So therefore it has pushed the limitations. That's how they was able to do it. Alice Larry, you checked in and said, look, Tennessee is doing the same thing. Really? I didn't know Tennessee was doing that. I would love to get, and Alice, please post which school in Tennessee is under this same type of regulations. Real Brooklyn, you said HBCUs are always at the bottom when it comes to this kind of stuff. This is disgusting and vile in every way. Yeah, because I'm sure, Real Brooklyn, and you and I both know, bro, I'm sure they don't put those type of sanctions and limitations on university, on UNC. I know they don't. I'm sure they don't. I don't think they'd be like, no, we're not going to accept out-of-state students. They don't put that. Please. A UNC, a Division I school, please. They not putting this. My God, Brother Damon, you say this funding cut is garbage. Facts. It is. It is garbage. It is garbage. And Durham Shaw, you said, which state or states are doing this? There are a lot of, and that's a big question. Like, what other states are doing it? What other states are doing this? And I think that's the question that we need to be asking, Durham. And to make sure we need to be asking that. Yep, we need to be asking that, just simply because it may be a problem for other schools. And they're a little bit over 100. I think it's like 101 HBCUs. And so if other schools are sanctioned in this same way, then other schools are missing out on more funding. Let's take some more of your thoughts, folks. Devin Barry, you said that's wild. Yeah, that is wild, bro. Definitely wild. Definitely wild. I can't wrap my mind around it. You don't like my music. You say we should be funding higher education, period. this reeks of white resentment. Yeah, it reeks of slavery. Like a slave master telling the slave what they can or cannot do. That's what it reeks of. Natalie Myers Brown, you checked in and said, that's a bunch of bull. They know HBCUs have a predominantly Black students who are at a level of excellence. They wouldn't do that at an Ivy League school. Oh, hell no. Of course not. Of course not. Janae, you said their punishment is higher academia. Really? See, they don't really care about us. Is this for the PWI in that state too? No, not at all. Not at all. So, folks, we're looking at a situation that is crazy. And I just wanted to throw it out there so everybody can see it for what it is. If you're down in North Carolina, if you know some folks down there, we're going to keep our eyes posted on this situation. And more importantly, we're going to get some more details about what does this mean and if this money can be given to North Carolina A&T, because it's unacceptable. So look, we're going to keep our eyes, keep you posted. Stay with us. We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to switch gears because it seems like folks just want to go against Black people, Black youth. First, you got this college situation, but the next conversation is going to be around young Black folks and young brown folks in the juvenile justice system, in the detention center down in Philadelphia. We're going to be checking in with online culture crew member and activist Taylor Ferguson to get us some insight about that, and also be bringing in our culture crew member for the day, Iman Heath. So stay with us. Conversations are just heating up right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Pull up a chair, take your seat to The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
Some names angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We want to switch gears now and have a different conversation about the state of Black youth, this time in the juvenile justice system. Now, a couple of weeks ago, last week, I believe, we were able to bring on online culture crew member Taylor Ferguson, who is an activist and an advocate, and she's working with an organization around making sure that young people in correctional facilities are treated fairly. Well, she brought to our attention the case of one Philadelphia detention center where the conditions there are deemed to be horrible, and it is not appropriate for the rehabilitation and reformation of Black youth right there in Philadelphia. And the conditions at this one place is so bad. Take a look. Judge orders that State Human Services to accept teens from chaotic, overcrowded detention center. That the conditions at this detention center is so bad that the city of Philadelphia has actually moved forward on filing a lawsuit against the state of Pennsylvania for not intervening in the affairs of this detention center. And as a result of that, leaving young people in that detention center to be neglected. Well, it looks like there's a latest development in this particular case and in this story, and we wanted to bring back Taylor Ferguson. And we're also going to be joined by Iman Heath, our culture crew member, to talk to us about this new part of this new development. Taylor, again, thank you so much for being on the program. How are you this afternoon?
I'm good. How are you?
We got you, Taylor?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. We're going to work on getting Taylor on. Can we also bring Iman in? Iman, thank you so much. There she go. All right, she's in and out. All right, Taylor, we got you. We don't got you. What we got? There we go.
Can you hear me?
Cool. Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay,
I appreciate it.
Okay, great.
So Taylor, talk to us a little bit about this detention center. Last time we talked about the state, the city is talking about suing the state because of conditions at this detention center. Now the story gets even crazier. That now those young people that are in this horrible detention center, that there are going to be plans to do what with those young people during this whole chaotic phase.
So now they're deciding that they would like to move a whole bunch of the overcrowded youth into a detention center in Texas, which I think is very idiotic because, I mean, they know nobody in Texas, let alone they know what type of conditions are in Texas, the systems in Texas. And of course, you have to think about the families because families are going to have to travel all the way from Philly to Texas just to go see their family members.
So who made that decision?
That's just the resolution that was found instead of them sending them to where they're supposed to be. So instead of them fixing the big picture, they decided, you know what, we're just going to send them off somewhere because this isn't really our problem. They're just kids and they're just going to let them go.
So this is something that has been authorized by the state or as of right now, or has the state moved forward and moving these young people, or is this something that is just being discussed And there's still an opportunity for activists and advocates like yourself in the community to rise up to say something to stop it.
So far, it's just a development. It's not really something that they've made hard-earned plans on, but it is definitely something that they are considering instead of, I guess, building another center, because that center is fairly new. I think it's either a year or a couple years old. So the fact that it's already overcrowded and it's already a problem is just like, okay, we can't just keep building all of these centers. So instead of building such, something else and causing more and more havoc, they decide, we're just going to let them go.
So this is, and I've heard this, and I want to bring in, and if we got Iman, I want to bring in Iman in on this, because this sounds so similar. Iman, and I appreciate you, sis, for joining us. How you feeling this afternoon, Iman? Can you hear us?
I had to take myself off mute. I'm well.
Okay, good. Iman, as we look at this sounds, and this is something this is an area of activism that you are also a part of. Not only are you dealing with police reform, but working with those who are locked down in the system, particularly with young people. I have heard, Iman, where states have said, okay, we can't deal with a certain situation, so let's ship them out. I remember hearing conversations about the Baltimore city jail where young people were, and they were saying, oh, the conditions in the city jail weren't appropriate, therefore we're going to move those young people out to another part of the state, not totally out of the state. So this sounds really extreme as even just a consideration, Iman.
So I even saw reading down further in the article that they were thinking about sending some of those children, I believe 15 to 20 children, to the adult facility just to hold them there for the time being. But it's like, okay, so when the number continues to grow, then what? To send the children to Texas, like Taylor said, that's asinine. It makes no sense. Already, first of all, it's already hard to travel. Flights high as hell to go from Philly to Texas. You first have to think about how it may not be affordable for everyone's family, and it's supposed to be a rehabilitative type of situation, not just you're on punishment, go sit in the corner type of situation. It doesn't help the youth. Sending them away doesn't help. Sending them to an adult center doesn't help. We need to have more programs as far as getting them reacquainted with certain skills. Not HQL. Why am I thinking of that? HVAC. HVAC skills. Something with, I don't know, activities they may enjoy or like, but it needs to be something to help them get back acquainted to society as a contributing citizen rather than a criminal as they're labeled at such a young age. But it doesn't help at all. It makes no difference.
It doesn't help. And Taylor, when this is Judge Ellen Seisler, a Commonwealth Court judge, and then basically the state officials are saying, take custody of 15 children currently living at this facility in Philly. And the judge is saying that the state of Pennsylvania needs to make a decision within a very short period of time to either to take these young people to this new state facility in Pennsylvania. They got one in Pittston, Pennsylvania. That's what I'm reading, based on a report, Pittston, Pennsylvania, or a private facility in Texas. And I'm wondering, is there an uproar about this situation? You work for an organization, or you work with an organization, Taylor, called CADB. This is exactly the type of issues you guys tackle in terms of working to improve the quality of life for young people inside of correctional facilities. So I'm wondering, what is the community saying? Because this just seems from, dealing with a problem to taking a sledgehammer to try to kill an ant. You know what I mean? It seems so extreme and so dramatic, and could be very traumatic for a lot of these young people.
So honestly, like, the community in general knows nothing about this. Like, again, when it first became a situation, it was just like, okay, like a group of people know and they want to make changes and they're coming to council meetings and things like that. But this new development is like, yes, it's been in the Inquirer, but nobody's making an uproar about it. It's not even, I don't know, like I can't even say it's developing news. Like it's not on the news, it's not on anywhere. So that's why, I mean, one of the reasons why I'm on right now, so that we're getting awareness of it and people understand that this is actually happening. Like this is really something that's going to affect so many Philadelphians, and nobody seems to know. Nobody's protesting, nobody's making changes. We're just sitting here and we're just moving along as if it doesn't affect us. So why do we care?
And talk to us about that. Talk to us about that, Taylor. How does it affect young people in Philly? Because this new facility, right? This is the facility where does this facility stand in the process? If a young person gets locked up, is this the final place that they go to, or is this sort of like the holding facility that and then they go to a new facility? Break that down for us.
So this is more of like just a regular detention center. Like if you were to go to jail as a child, it's the same thing. It's not a holding center. It's just, like I said, it's just jail for kids. But it has become so violent and just so serious in there and so chaotic in there that it's like more like, I don't even know. It's not even like holding. It's just like you have, I don't want to even say a fight pin, but it's kind of like a fight pin. It's like you just have a whole bunch of boxing kids in there and they're fighting with also adults in there, trying to save their own lives.
Wow. Iman, I'm really blown away. I'm kind of at a loss for words and dealing with, how do we have a conversation about young people in the system? You know what I mean? Because we often talk about the system. We often talk about Black men, Black women coming home, how the community receive them. But I'm not hearing quite as much conversation about young people, youth in the juvenile justice systems and some of the big challenges and some of the issues there. It's kind of, and I'm not going to say it's like a well-kept secret, but it's just not being talked about quite as much. Do you think why do you think that is?
I would say from what I'm hearing, on the civilian standpoint, is that especially older generations, they're tired of dealing with the youth. They're tired of dealing with the consistent violence with the youth. I would say here in Baltimore, armed robberies, juveniles, armed robberies, armed carjackings are the highest crime as far as juveniles at this moment. And I will say people on the outside are just tired. And the narrative is starting to change to, well, why say give them a slap on the wrist and let them back out on the street for them to do it all over again? So you have people that are fighting for the youth, and you also have the opposite side that's like, we're tired. So I can see why not wanting to save them in a sense is starting to be the new feel for everyone or majority of people. I wonder, how can we get the news out to people in Philly to know, hey, this is going on in y'all backyard. What can be done, or how can the children be saved, or how can we sway a better decision than just shipping them to Texas? Even sending them to an adult facility isn't ideal, but it's better than sending them to Texas. And again, who will be held responsible for making this change for those children without the families having a say-so to just ship their child off to Texas? But I would say from the outside standpoint, people are tired of the ongoing violence of juveniles. Like, it's the lack of respect for people's property. Like, it's on both sides, it looks ugly.
I think Taylor, I think Iman is certainly right, because it seems like every year or every couple of years, the laws against Black youth and laws against young people, juveniles, seem to become more and more strict. And based upon your work, Taylor, is that the sentiment that you're seeing? Is it that people are like kind of throwing their hands up when it comes to Black youth and brown youth in particular and saying, look, let the system deal with it? Is that what you're getting as well?
100%. Like, it is, that is definitely dead on. Again, just like how it is in Baltimore, it's the same thing here, but just add on gun violence, because it is every single day. It's at least 6 news stories coming through of kids shooting up somebody or killing somebody or jumping another person. Like, it is so violent, and they're so tired of dealing with that every day and seeing that on the news and just having to live through such a traumatic life just because the youth wants to live that way.
And see, there has to be a cultural change for that, ladies. There has to be a cultural change for that, because as much as we like to say children are our future, right? As much as we like to prop up young people, it's like you're only our future up until you're about 12 years old, and after that you become public enemy number one. Now you're not our future. You're not our asset. You become our liability. You know what I'm saying? You're not the solution. Now you're the problem. Once you turn 12, and I've worked in schools, I've worked with young people, it's a whole different thing. Once they turn like 11, 12 years old, 13 years old, they get in that time, that age range. I'm saying for boys and girls, it becomes like something totally different. It becomes something totally different. And I'm wondering, are we like, as Black folks in this country, are we helping to create a culture where we wind up hating our own babies, hating our own young people?
I think we're going in that direction, unfortunately. Like it's hard to control or help at least develop some of these children. And I'll say what could also be a barrier is with certain children, some children need someone to talk to them in a stern way and they'll get their stuff together. And then some children need to go sit down in jail for a little bit to understand this is not a game. So to try to decide who goes where or who needs what type of help is also the barrier. They don't have case managers that have a significant amount of children where it's not overwhelming them, where they can see these children one-on-one. It's harder. It's not as easy. And I hope that eventually we can get to that point, but that's the problem. If we can get more attention to these children in detention centers, it'll be easier to release them so they can go home and try again. Or for the children who keep returning, something else has to be done. But we just don't have enough manpower at this time to be in those facilities. Who wants to be in a bullpen, as she said, a fighting pen, as she said, with children, and you're trying your best to at least make it home to your children? So this is a tough situation on both ends.
I mean, I agree, Taylor.
I agree. I feel as if it's really a on the fence type of situation, because it's like you do want to help the kids. You do want the kids to know that this is not right and that, you know, you want them to succeed in life. But then at the same time, it's just like, am I willing to risk my life for this? Am I willing to, you know, have the option to, you know, maybe die if I were like, I don't want to go in a situation where I could literally get beaten so badly just so that I can do something for a kid that's not even mine. And that way, you kind of have to think to yourself, like, do I want to be selfish or do I want to be empathetic? And it's kind of hard. And I understand why people are ready to put their hands up and they're ready to let them go. And I understand that we need to find a way for them to kind of understand that this isn't right and that that's not the life to live. But detention centers is not the answer anymore. Like it's clearly not the answer, because they're getting worse than what they were. And the ones that are in there and are coming out are, you know, like it's not where it's supposed to be. They're going in the opposite direction of what the detention center is for. It's no longer rehabilitation. At this point, it's just you're learning more skills of how to be in the streets. And that's not okay.
Right. And then another variable to it is when those children do come out, some of them are going to these foster homes that trash. They are going to people who just want a check. They're not going to people who really care about what they do, if they do their homework, if they even going to school. Truancy is out the water when it comes to Baltimore City schools. So it's like Taylor said, it's a two-sided situation. And to find a median, we gotta find it. But the detention center is not it. It's not it.
I hate to say it, but I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Taylor.
I was gonna say, I hate to say it, but in Philly, truancy is terrible. Like it's like I remember, and not to say this, but it was one time I skipped that we'll talk about, and I got caught up by a truancy cop, and he just saw me, looked at me, and walked away. They don't care. Like it's like, what are they gonna do to stop you? They can't. You're gonna do it again anyway if they're not out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the whack-a-mole situation. Y'all play that game whack-a-mole? It's like you pop, as soon as one pop up, you can knock it down, you pop up again and knock it down. And after a while, it just becomes a futile attempt to try to deal with a problem. It's a Band-Aid approach, right?
It's police down here. Like, I'm not even heard.
We don't have truancy. There wasn't no truancy. No. You ain't there with no truancy, Cop Taylor. Growing up in Baltimore, you got pulled over by the cops.
Well,
But you also looking at a situation, a scenario, and this has been for years in Baltimore, and I haven't seen this in Los Angeles, but for years, there's school police, you got resource officers, right? They got their hands tied, but then you got police that are also on these major, like larger school campuses, like high schools, and in some cases, even middle schools, right? But mostly I've seen full-blown police officers, not school police, not just resource officers, full-blown officers. It may have about 4 or 5 of them on a campus at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Like just to be there. It comes down to the resources of the city. The city doesn't, a lot of our major cities, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and other cities, they just don't have the money to try to invest in creating a truancy officer or having enough truancy cops on the beat, because you got school police. I know that in Baltimore, the resource officer is supposed to serve as that person, as a buffer between the police, right, and the community. The resource officer is trained to stop fights. The resource officers are trained to make sure that the students, get to school. But it's again, it comes down to funding, and I think that's what happens. That's what happens. That as a result of a lack of funding, a lack of investment, you got young people who are falling through the cracks. And in this case, they're going into a center, and their futures are already being dictated to them. They have no agency over where they're going. Their parents have relinquished their rights in some cases, right? To say, look, I don't know what to do with them.
A lot of single mothers, that is the narrative. I don't know what else to them.
I don't know what to do with. Like, what do you do with a 15-year-old black boy who's not listening to his mom? He's not listening to grandma. He's not listening to auntie. Father may be there, or uncle may be there. Big brother may be there, but he's more inclined to the streets. He's more inclined to his homeboys, right? He's more inclined to that peer pressure. Same thing with a little sister. She like, nah, man, I'm not listening. And look, the thing is, and I think Taylor and Iman, I think all of us can attest to the fact, young people know when they're in a dysfunctional situation. They know that. They know that if mom is one way, daddy is another way. When they come home, there isn't the structure that they want. I mean, they know these things. They see it. And guess what? Some young people say, well, I'm not going to let that define me. But then you still got some other young people. Taylor, I'm sure that's part of your story. You're like, look, instead of me being out there running the streets, I'm going to use my time productively to help, to be an advocate, an activist, and get involved in positive things. You know what I'm saying? But then you got some young people, and can we blame them? Because I think we probably all kind of had our little brushes. We got some young people that are like, man, shit, I ain't going home. I'm not going home. My parents ain't there. Grandma, she sleep. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get this money. I'm trying to have this fun. I'm trying to hang out, blah, blah, blah. And it's just a situation that I think our community would have to step in instead of government officials. And that's the sad part.
I'll say this for Maryland, though. I don't feel like we don't have the funding. I just like the funding isn't allocated for those type of things, because we can build casinos and we can build Top Golf and we can build this and build that, but it's no way. And we've seen the government do all kinds of things that you can't take from one pool to another and make it work some type of way. I don't want to hear, oh, well, that's not for that. That's not for that. No, to hell with it. We can make some things change. Y'all had the National Guard on North Avenue, North and Penn, when the Freddie Gray riot happened. Y'all got them here swiftly So some way, somehow, some phone calls or something can be made to get some action down here to at least help these children. But I feel as though we have the funding. It's just not put there because most of our juveniles are young minorities. The Hispanic community is starting to take over some of the juvenile detentions as well. So it's young minorities, young troubled minorities who they don't give a damn about. So the funding is there. I just don't think it's allocated for that.
What I will say.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Taylor.
What I will say for Philly is that we also have the funding. We 100% have the funding. And I know that we have the funding because every corner that you turn, there's a new apartment building coming. It's getting gentrified left and right. So you know they have the funding. And then on top of that, with the whole truancy thing, we definitely have the money for proper truancy people. We have the money for police officers because at my school, because my school was one of the worst schools in the city. At my school, we definitely had cops there. We had resource officers. We had metal detectors as soon as you walk in. Like we had all of that. But I mean, we befriend those people. Us as youth, they befriend us. They don't do their job really. They're more so there to be our friends, like be our friends or sleep with some. Anyway, but like it's more they're doing the friendly thing than they're doing their actual job. So the funds are there. It's just, are you choosing to use the funds to get more revenue? Or are you choosing to use the funds for the people who actually need it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I got to take a quick pause, ladies. When we come back, and Taylor, if you could just hold on for a few more minutes, I want to get some, we got a lot of feedback as we're having this conversation from our online culture crew. Folks are checking in. Janine, you said something that I think is absolutely important that we got to keep in mind. You said this is why a complete Black family is important. At this point, folks should not be having kids outside of wedlock. Well, that's a choice. Black men are necessary in the home. The issue is multi-layered. I couldn't agree with you more, Janine, that there are so many different facets to this conversation that it's forcing us to my hope is that it's compelling us and forcing us to really look inward, because outside of the government stuff, outside of the detention center stuff, there has been a breakdown in our families, in the Black family, and in our community to the point where young people are going wayward. And now this has been happening. This ain't nothing new. So I know Taylor and Iman, y'all both know that. This ain't nothing new. It's just becoming more and more severe, and it's becoming more and more detrimental to the progress of our community and our people. And so when you're having young people who are going wayward and not adhering to rules, who are putting themselves in dangerous situations, and then essentially becoming wards of the state, it's becoming a real problem. So we're going to have more conversations. So stay with us, folks. A lot more coming up as we continue to talk about this issue and other issues on the next hour of The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't wait till November 8th. We can vote today, y'all. Early vote started this week. We're on Savannah State University's campus. We will be dorm storming today, giving out treats for everyone. We hope to see everyone at the polls when it comes to November.
If you believe we got power, let them know. Make some noise. Put a fist up. I need to see a fist in the air because we got power. Come on, you put it up. Come get your shirt. We're out here in the streets of Savannah, Georgia. James, do not forget to go vote. I got you. If we vote the right people in, we can make a change. We can get these resources in our community.
I am a woman, and it is important that we have the say-so of what we want to do with our bodies.
We're concentrating on entrepreneurism, providing young people with resources and training that they need in order to change their trajectories. We want Black down. Democracy is on the ballot. Voting rights is on the ballot. Voting suppression is on the ballot. I am most passionate about those three combined because they all impact each other.
Savannah is my home. I care about my community, and I care about representation in my community.
Our voices are still going to be heard no matter what kind of obstacles try to come up against us to stop us from voting. We're still going to be standing our ground.
I see the effort that's being made to keep our communities from voting. So that makes me realize it's even more important, because if it wasn't important, they wouldn't be fighting to make sure we could vote.
This doesn't stop this year. This is a forever movement.
We're going to exert our power as a people, walk in our rightful place. We're going to change our communities, fight for our communities, and build our communities.
All right, folks, welcome to the second hour of The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've been having a great conversation with online culture crew member Taylor Ferguson. She's an activist with an organization called CADB, which is working to improve the quality of life for young people inside the correctional facilities and in disadvantaged spaces. And so we've been talking to her about this situation about this West Philadelphia Juvenile Detention Center that has been under great review and scrutiny from the city of Philadelphia, and not so much from the state of Philadelphia, but more importantly, been under scrutiny about the conditions of young people inside the facility. Even though the facility is a fairly new facility, there are already problems inside. So much so that the city of Philadelphia has moved to file a lawsuit against the state of Pennsylvania and not dealing with the problems. And even taking it even further, the problems have become exacerbated so much that now there was a federal order to remove some of the young people inside of this West Philadelphia detention center, to move them to deal with so that these young people can get back in the process of rehabilitation. The problem is, where they're talking about moving them to is either in another part of the state of Pennsylvania or completely out of the state to Texas. And so this order comes down as to kickstart or to add some fire to the state officials of Pennsylvania to figure out what to do with young people during this whole controversy. And we've been talking to Taylor, and we've been talking to culture crew member Iman Heath about this situation and the impact, and more importantly, how all of these things have led young people, whether you're talking about breakdown of the family, you're talking about what's going on in the Black community, it has opened the door for young people to become more wayward, and that has led to the detriment of our community instead of the progress. I want to bring Taylor and Iman back into the picture here, folks, as we've been having this conversation. Taylor, again, we thank you so much for your time and for your activism and giving us some updates about this situation. one of the big things I wanted to do is just share with both of you ladies what folks are saying from the show, because people are livid. Folks are livid. And you know, this conversation, anytime you're talking about young people, that this conversation can elicit a lot of different responses. Let me start with, you don't like my music. You don't like my music. You said if they can't house and take care of these kids, then let them go. Don't ship them out of state like a commodity. Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable, Iman and Taylor. Don't ship them out.
Don't ship them out, but don't let them go. Like, depending on what the offense may be.
Yeah.
Don't just let's just let them go because we don't have enough room. Nah, you need to look at the case and the circumstances first.
So you're saying like a case by case basis.
Right. Yeah. Some offenses you should not just be able to just be released. Like beating a lady over her head for her Pontiac. No.
Yeah. Hey Taylor, I'm wondering, you know, I know there's only a small number of young people that are going to be affected by this decision to move them out of state, but are they looking at each situation of each young person? Are they taking it on a case by case basis? Like, how do they determine which young people to move possibly out of state? Has that been made known yet?
I believe they're doing it by age. So I think that if you are the older you are, they're sending you off. I don't think it's by case, which would make 100% more sense. But I believe it's more of an age range thing.
So if the older you are, and how long does a young person stay in the juvenile detention center? Is it up till 17, 18?
I believe it's either 18 or 19. It's one of the two.
Okay. So they're doing it by age, but I mean, I've watched shows where young people as young as 10, 11 years old have done some heinous crimes.
Yes. Like Iman said, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying, like, they done heinous crimes. So I'm wondering, like, why they haven't even considered case by case. Not to say, and here's the thing, I'm not advocating for it to be shipped away. I think there's a lot more conversations that need to be had before you ship. I mean, you can't ship a 10-year-old to another state. I get that, right? But, you know, even a 17-year-old, you know what I mean? They already had gone through enough trauma and drama. Now you're going to add this to the mix. It just still doesn't vibe well for their mental health and well-being, Taylor.
100%. Like Iman was saying, like, I definitely believe that it should be a case-by-case basis because, which I also do not agree with shipping them as far as Texas, maybe somewhere closer. But I do believe that if you have done something crazy, like killed somebody or just something violent or something that has like a victim, then you should definitely be sent somewhere that's a lot more serious. But I do feel as if you have done something small, like, I don't want to say robbery because it depends on the situation of robbery, but if you've done something like as small as a robbery or something like that's just not, it's victimless, you should definitely stay where you are when you can use the situation of sending those people off as a way of, okay, this is serious. Like, if you don't get your act together, you're going to like with the adults, and with the adults is going to be a totally different game than with other youth.
Absolutely. Oh, no doubt. Absolutely. Even that. And we talked a little bit about this, but I'm not even in favor of putting them in the adult jail.
Yeah, no.
I'm not in favor of that mixing, man.
Yeah, especially the 17 to 18-year-olds, like they'll get caught up in that jail life with adults, and the next thing you know, they get a ticket after ticket after ticket, and they're just never coming home anytime soon. So that doesn't help whatsoever.
I'm not cool with that. I'm not cool with that. And you know, maybe because I'm getting older, maybe because I got children, maybe because I'm seeing the world from a different set of eyes now as I mature. But I just don't think that young people, and especially at that age, it's like, oh man, it's crazy because it will, you know, if you have this criminal mentality, and I'm talking about the mentality, I'm not saying that that's who people are. I'm saying their thinking leads them to behave a certain way. But if you have that criminal mentality, you know, there's the possibility of sharing that, You know what I'm saying? Like the whole point of young people going into the system is to kind of like, for lack of a better word, scare straight, right? Like scare them into thinking like, you know what? Your choices if you keep on down this path, you're going to stay in here for a very long time. So, you know, you need to kind of make some changes in your life and your choices and your decision making. So I mean, this just doesn't vibe with me that you put like a young boy in the same space as a grown ass men who've done much more heinous crimes, right? And I'm not saying everybody, of course, everybody in jail ain't crazy. Everybody in jail is not going to be harmful to children, but why take that chance?
Especially the jail detention centers in Texas. Like, it's a whole different ball game with larger facilities in Texas.
So let me ask you, that's a good point. Because Taylor, is this a detention center in Texas, or with the detention, if the consideration of putting them with adults, would that be in Pennsylvania or would that be in Texas? As far as
that'll be in Texas. That would be in Texas. So they would be going to a totally different area where they're going to learn new skills and learn new things to do as soon as they get out. And it's just going to be even more crazy than it already is.
Wow, man. So I'm so glad to your point, Iman. I just wanted to get some clarity on that.
Yeah, it's just gonna be worse. Like that's not
because Texas. Let me say, like I've never been to Texas, but it seems like it's much more of a. It's like California. You got so many different types of people in some of these states. You know what I'm saying? Like in Pennsylvania, Maryland, of course you got different folks, but it seems like Texas and California, those certain states, they draw upon everybody. They bring everybody into the mix, right? And so that is
the who you think either there. It's you are divided not only by gang but by your race and then by gang. Like it's way worse than being a juvenile facility where you're from, and it's predominantly Black children or at least minority children. But Texas, that's is beyond.
And the crazy part, Iman and Taylor, the governor down in Texas is a Republican. The governor in Pennsylvania is a Democrat.
Yep. Texas
got much more harsher rules when it comes to certain violations of the law. Texas, I mean, it's like you jumping out the frying pan into the fire, baby. You know what I'm saying? And you sending young people. All right, let's get to some of the thoughts from our online culture crew. Folks are checking in. The YouTube, the U channel, you says prisons for profit, follow the money, have an attorney stop this move under trafficking. Good luck. Well, they probably wouldn't stop the move under trafficking because it's all been state sanctioned. And it's been federally ordered from the court, so it wouldn't be considered that. But I see your point. Lana, my sister, you said we got to go in our communities and let our families know this is nothing but modernized slavery, jail for kids. This is insane, unbelievable. Our community is hurting and crying. Come on now, ain't that the truth? And well, you know what though, Lana? They're not hurting and crying if they don't know.
Yeah.
Taylor, you said it. Nobody really knows, and there's no big uproar. It's running in the local paper in Philly, but it's not no big uproar in terms of. And see, this right here, the sisters. This is the big reason why culture is so important, right? Because the enemy of our rise, they don't always hit us in a very blatant way, come to us. The way that they hit us is they create an environment or a culture where we start to hate our own young, right? And that is from a number of different ways, whether that's through entertainment, whether that's through news, whether that's through, social media. But you're constantly putting out these messages that young people are dangerous, that young people need to be fed, that young people, Black youth, and all of this stuff, right? And because we, as the community, as Black people in this country, we have also become victimized by our young, right? Some of us may have been robbed. Some of us may have been physically and sexually assaulted. You know what I'm saying? That type of narrative will force us to be like, yeah, man, I mean, it's crazy. Where Black adults will say, I mean, I love the young, but they are out of control. And so all you're doing is shifting the sentiment from protecting the young to leaving the young in a vulnerable position. And that's a very different level of propaganda. And we have to fight against that. Like in our community, in our household, we got to fight against that. We're not putting out this narrative. Like if you pass on, just case in point, if you see a video of young people beating up somebody on World Star Hip Hop or some other site, right? And you pass it and you be like, boy, these young boys are crazy. That creates something in your head that young Black people need to be fed. Young Black people aren't children. Young Black people aren't human. And then we start to create this belief system. It starts at the root of the belief system before it even gets to policy, before it even gets to, legal, into the legal space, before it even gets to policing. It starts right here. And that's what I see. Like when we become complicit in the destruction of our own future.
I agree.
And I'm starting to see that more and more. The more that we talk bad about our youth, and when we do that, or we start to quote unquote separate young Black people from us, like that's them as if they created themselves, like that adds to this culture, to the sentiment. Y'all got to do something with them because that's y'all problem, not ours, even though they came from us.
Yep. Very true. So Taylor, why do you think there isn't any local news coverage about this issue? At least the local news. Like, why do you think it's not being broadcasted up there on the news at least?
Honestly, I feel like just like Farajii was saying, like it's more of a they're always doing something wrong, they're always doing something bad, they're harming me, so I don't care where they go in the future. And it is like they focus more on the bad kids than they do the kids that are actually out here doing something. Like around the same time that this was happening, there was also a group of students in Philly who traveled all the way to Jacksonville to give them fresh water because they made a water filter out of 3D print. But that also wasn't covered. So it's like we're focusing more on the bad things that are happening to our youth because we don't care and it affects us in a bad way. But it's like we're giving up on the ones that actually do good things. So both of them don't get the type of recognition that they need, but the ones that are worse are somehow getting shown, in a way so that that's the only mindset you have of them. Oh, all youth is bad. All youth is violent. All youth is this. All youth is that. But it's like, okay, there's some youth that aren't like that. It's some youth who actually want to do things in life. It's some youth that actually want to make changes in this world. But the only youth that you're thinking about is the one who shot somebody up the street or is stealing ATMs at the Poppy store.
Right.
It's not fair.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. Tori, you said, Tori Stark, you said we're going through the same thing in Baltimore. We've been going through that in Baltimore for 50 years. Tori, you know it, I know it, Iman, you know it. We've been going through that in Baltimore for 50 years. For 50 years, and I'm not even joking. As long as I've been alive, there's always been, that's how I got into activism. It's simply because the narratives and the storylines around young people have always been problematic. It's always been Black youth are public enemy number one. That's always been there, always, and that's not true. And I think to your point, Taylor, that's something that we have to combat. When people, and I'm saying for us, among our own people, when we start going down that line, man, when you start hearing somebody talk bad about youth, we should challenge that. I do. Like, let me ask you a question, bro. How did they become that way? Because the last time I checked, when drugs hit the streets of Baltimore, New York, Chicago, Philly, back in the 80s and the 90s, These young people weren't around.
Yeah, and we don't have boats. We don't have airplanes.
How did it become so violent? What happened? You see what I'm saying? Like this is their struggle, their issues is not separate from our issues. Like these young boys, but they don't know how to do something. Well, why? Because black men weren't present.
And that's the part as well. And it was systemically done. You took the black man out of the home, gave the black woman welfare and all these benefits, so she feels as though she can do what she want, what she need on her own without a male being in the house. Then, as generations went on, we developed this independent black woman mindset, where though we now don't need a man this, don't need a man that, and it's only going that direction even faster. I don't need this, I don't need that. And on top of that, the young of them, they have to do certain things that may be illegal to at least take care of their siblings or keep the lights on at their house or provide their siblings to be able to go to school. It's way too many variables. And I honestly think it all starts and stems from poverty, let alone just having a family front as far as having the man and the woman there, but the poverty, like it breeds violence. And these children out here literally fighting literally for their lives to have something to eat or to at least have clothes on their back. And not to add social media, you have everyone in designer this and designer that. I'm seeing sixth graders in Balenciaga shoes.
Yep.
In sixth grade. So you have pressure from that, from the outside. Like it's a lot for these children, but I say the solution is poverty. We got that problem.
Boom. How does a child get their values? That is so real. Boom. There it is, Iman. How does a child know about some damn Balenciagas unless the parents made it important to them?
I do feel like you can't say that though, solely because of the fact that, like I said last time, it's really influential. Like you can't always blame the parents because some kids are gullible. Some kids see that their friends have this, have that. So they're like, okay, well, I want that. Or they're doing this. Okay, so if they're doing it and it's cool, I'm going to do it too. So you can't even always blame the parents because the kid can have two parents in their household. The kid could be in a healthy life, in a like they're living middle class, upper class, but because everybody else is living like this or they're shooting guns or, you know, doing whatever, you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to show them that I'm, you know, better than them or that I have more privilege than they do. Instead, I'm just going to act like them because I'm going to throw the rest of my privilege away. And I'm just going to act like them because what they're doing is cool. So you can't always blame the parents because sometimes the parents are actually doing what they're supposed to do. It's the child that's looking at what's going on in the world. And they're like, well, if that's how the world's working, then let me join.
Well, and I agree with you because I don't think that it's just about the parents. I know that there are great parents out there, right? And even so, no parent, I want to give I like to give parents the benefit of the doubt because I understand the struggle. So when you have a child, right, you try to do the best for your child. It's not easy. You're talking about 18 years in the household, probably 21 nowadays, and 21 because my father always told me, by the time you're 18, son, you getting out of here. You know what I mean? He was of that school of thought. But you're talking about 21 years in the household. And parents are striving to do the best that they can with the little or with the resources that they got, right? So I'm not going to beat up on parents because it's not always the parent. I think that for us as a community, we know that there are cultural forces. The streets are glorified in music and how we connect with one another and our, friend interaction. The whole street life is so glorified that you got black men and young black women who are attracted to that life. They're attracted to, and even like you said, Taylor, they can come from 2-parent households. They can come from from decent money. But guess what? It's something about that street life. It's something about being seen on the block. It's something about, I'm from this place, I'm from that place, or it's something about, and see, that's rooted in a child not knowing themselves. The sad part about it is a lot of us has gone through the great trial of going through all of this shit when we young. And then by the time we 30 and 40, we trying to recover from our teens and 20s, right? We finally get to a point where we're like, damn, all that stuff I did, all that madness I caused my mama, my grandma, my granddad, all that stuff I thought it was important ain't nothing now. That's what it comes out to. I think that's part of the big problem. Like the stuff that we think is so valuable now, the values that we hold on to that are so important to us now, it really means nothing. It really, because when you locked up, you don't get no money. You ain't wearing no name brand clothes. When you get locked up, when you get a record, you don't have can't get no job hardly.
It's that part.
People stigmatize you as a criminal for the rest of your life, and you're 19, 20 years old.
Yep.
It's like your life is over before you even got started.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? And then now what do? You go back into the same element because you're like, damn. And look, I always tell young people, you got to choose. Like, we all know the difference between right and wrong. Most of us know what's right and wrong. I don't want to hear, and I'm an advocate because I do this to my own children. Don't act like you didn't know, because your ass knew. You knew exactly what you were doing. You just didn't want to do the right thing. So guess what? Hey, you made the bed, now you got to lay in that bad boy. I mean, that's how our parents do. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's life. That's life. Somebody in the chat said we coddle young people too much. I mean, look, there's some real stuff happening in this world. I'm not. You agree?
Absolutely.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Some of these children are coddled, especially young black men, and their mothers treating them like they're king and whatever the case may be.
Okay.
It's
so y'all want to open up a whole nother can. Y'all want to have a different chat, different.
Yeah, I got that now.
Some of these women carry their son as if that's their man. Like, they can't.
That's true. That's unhealthy.
Female to be independent, be strong, blah blah.
Yeah.
Well, that's bet not that, but that son.
Yeah.
You get away with murder.
Hey, look. To all the sisters, look. Tell you, don't call your son no king until he has shown that he is worthy of that title. Right now, he a prince.
The baby be 4 years old. The Instagram post say, "Happy birthday to my king."
Nah, dog. Nah.
I started that when he get 8 years old and he keeps a phone. It's always not my child, girl. Please, he the ringleader of all the nonsense. But you know,
hey, look, tell T'Challa to just hold on a minute. He gonna have his time to reign supreme. Just tell T'Challa, hold on. Right now, he's still in the training phase right now, right?
Exactly. But I agree. We do coddle these young black men a little too much.
Well, you know what? I understand it. I understand the sentiment. There has to be a balance. But I think that at the end of the day, like for me, it's important that we show black men in particular just enough love, right? Like I hold my son, I kiss him on the cheek. You know what I'm saying? Like I tell him every day, I love you. You know what I'm saying? Because, and I know sometimes he feels like, oh, I can't do nothing without him. I tell him, like, you can do stuff on your own. You can make your own decision. But it's a hard balance. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't want to lose. I'm personally tired of hearing about young black boys being lost to the street or to gunfire or to some other stuff. You know what I mean? So when, like, my son is so near and dear to my heart. Like, part of me is like, yo, I don't want you to go wayward, but I'm going to create. This is the way that I chose, creating the environment, establishing a village for him to grow up in, so he can be himself. So he don't have to feel like he's a threat, and just know that I'm going to be a part of the village. I'm not going to be I'm not the village. I'm a part of the village. Mm-hmm. And I just try to create that good space for him, his friends, his family. But he knows he can always rely on dad. But no, I'm not going to make him weak. I don't want him to be weak. So to your point, I see that a lot too, Iman. But I think that there has to be a balance. Black men, and I think a lot of black men today, and especially, I think a lot of brothers who are breaking the cycles of being very engaged fathers. I know this. I know this without a shadow of doubt. We are hugging our sons. We are loving on our sons. We are telling our sons that they are good, that they're good, innately good. I mean, we're doing, because we've been the result of that. We came out the drug culture. We came out the violence culture. I mean, we came out of that, and that has hardened us. And then we've gone through life, and after a while, we just got into this place where we're like, nah, man, I'm tired of being angry. I'm tired of being hateful. Let's try love for one moment. Let's try love. So my thinking, Taylor, is what's the next step? What do we do with a situation like this, with this detention center? How do we, like, get involved, and more importantly, how do we stay posted about this situation?
Well, first, what I could say to what you were just saying about how you treat your son, like, that's 100% how you're supposed to handle that. I feel like it should also be a balance for young girls too, because I mean, we still have the stereotypes of young girls being told that they're being too fast or that they're doing this. And even on top of them being told that, some of them are acting a little too fast because of the things that they see, and they feel like that's okay. So we really need to, and I hate you have to censor things, but we need to start censoring things, and we need to start, or at least explaining things to the point to where you need to know that this is not right, or this is not what you're supposed to be doing at this age, or you need to understand that, like, this is going to be your decision when you get older, but think about how it's going to affect you in the future, not just, how it's going to make you feel today. Because you can want to do something that's like crazy and it's going to make you feel an adrenaline rush and you're going to feel great, but how is it going to affect you in the future? What are people going to see you as in the future? How is that going to affect your next move in the future?
Absolutely. Taylor, there's so much, and we got to bring you back on, because people wanted to know so much more from you, Taylor, about the work that you're doing and just your perspectives. One person asked, and I want to get this very quickly, they were saying, like, when Iman said that we think that we are coddling our children, you said, what's your take on that? You think we're coddling young black men and young black women too much?
I don't think we're coddling black women, but the men, it depends. It genuinely depends on the situation, because just like she said, some women will really treat their son like that is their man. And it's just like, why are you treating him like that? I don't want to say you lonely, but you're doing a little too much. He's like very much, Taylor. Like he like 3 or 4, and you talking about, oh, he opened the door for me. Oh, he did. Why is he doing that? Like, I get you want to show him that this is how he's supposed to treat a woman, but you're not his woman. So stop doing that. Chill out. That's like, relax a little bit.
Y'all know I ain't saying nothing, because that ain't my part of the conversation.
I'll be with you, Taylor.
You can't tell a black woman how not to treat her son like sister. That's a sister thing. But I hear you. Taylor Ferguson, I truly appreciate you and the work that you're doing with Kathy and some of the other organizations you're part of, being a young sister, being an activist, an advocate, and bringing us up to date. Thank you so much, Taylor, for spending a little extra time with us here today to talk about these issues. And we look forward to bringing you back on, sis. Thank you so much.
Of course. I love y'all. Good looking out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk to a councilman from Texas who's going to give us some insight about, what's the next step after the midterm. And, now that we've been putting Texas out there, I wonder if he even knew the situation about what's going on in West Philadelphia. So we'll have that conversation and so much more. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20036-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We want to just switch gears and have a few minutes talking to a public servant who is doing some work down in Texas. He serves as one of the council members for Glen Heights, Texas. And he is also a huge fan of what we're doing here on Black Star Network with Roland Martin Unfiltered, The Culture, and so many other dynamic shows. So we wanted to give him an opportunity to talk to us about some of the things he's doing, as he has been a part of that National League of Cities Conference, Cities Summit that happened over this weekend, and so much more. And as I'm sure he heard the part of the conversation that we just had about the transferring of young people from Philadelphia to Texas. Maybe he can give us some insight, or may have came across something like that down there. But we want to welcome now Councilman Travis Bruton to the culture here on the Black Star Network. Brother Travis, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. First and foremost, brother, you are down in Texas. You're in Roland's neck of the woods.
Yes, sir. I'm in Glen Heights, Texas. It's about 20 miles outside of Dallas.
Absolutely. I wanted to just, have you on because there's so many conversations that we're having, of course, about politics. We just came out of a very, very, I think one of a game-changing midterm election, Brother Travis. But I wanted to kind of get your take on local representation, local politics, because we've been surrounded around talking about the national stuff. But there has been a lot of discussion, especially when it came to this midterm, that folks should vote because the midterm really affects the local more so than the national. You're voting for your state representatives, you're voting for certain judges and other statewide positions. So let's talk a little bit about that. First and foremost, for those who aren't familiar with the work that you do as a councilman, how long have you been in office, dear brother?
So I've been in office for 2 years now on a 3-year term. I initially started another term previously in 2018. I was off the council and then I got back on in 2020. So I've been on for a little over 2 years now.
Now, what was the inspiration for you to even run, Brother Travis?
To be honest, the inspiration, shout out to Barack Obama, it was the community engagement. So before I got on the council, I was doing something in my own neighborhood. I was trying to get the neighborhood together to do different things. And so they was, after that kind of inspired me. Hey, you can go to the next level. You should affect not just our neighborhood, but you should affect the city as a whole. And doing that, that was like, you know what, you're right. You're right. The things that are working in our neighborhood could work in the city as a whole. And at that time, I said, let's go.
So for you, when you've been a councilman, you haven't held any other political office before this opportunity. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Local level.
Local level. And so now that you're in a mix of things, how important is local politics? How important is local representation in the big scheme of things, especially with Black folks in this country? Lay that out for us so we can have a better understanding of the significance of that work.
Yeah, one thing I always say is about local elections and local politicians is that they affect you the most. I believe they affect you more than the state or the national. When you think about you riding down the street and those speed bumps hitting you, or the road is jagged, that's local most of the time. Your water, your sewer, your utilities, those bills, those are all local bills. The infrastructure of the city and in general, it's all local. And so it's important that you are voting for the people who are going to do the work. At the local level, the local level is where they touch you the most, is what I like to say. That's your neighborhood city council person. Whereas the state, you'll never really see the governor come to your city unless you're a big city or they're campaigning. But your local politicians, your city council members, they're right there in your neighborhood. You can reach out and almost touch them, so to speak. And so that's what's really important about the local people. And when you're putting these people in office, it's important. The representation is important as well. For the city of Glen Heights, we are 45% Black. It's a population a little under 20,000, 45% Black. And so just in government in general, you want to see that your council, your mayor, all look similar to you and look similar to the population, right? And so that's what's really important when it comes to representation, because you don't want your council or the people who's making the rules to not look like you. You want to see that representation. And then it's also good, I know earlier you were talking about the youth, it's also good for the youth to see, especially when you think about Black and brown kids, that to see people in position, in power, that are making the rules, that are doing the laws, that look like them, because that inspires the next generation.
Yeah, and I mean, you look like you're not no old man, brother. Hey, Travis.
Yes.
I was saying you're not an old man, brother. You're a young man. You're a young brother. You know what I'm saying? And I think that, I mean, we often have these conversations on this show, obviously, that, you know, young people should get engaged and should get involved as much as they can. But you know, I'm from the school of thought of like a Dr. King and some of the other great ones that came before us, that your involvement in public life should be based on your desire to serve people and not your desire to just, you know, make a name for yourself, quote unquote.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Because when in positions like this, that's what it's all about, is the service to the citizens. It's not about you know, it's not about the photo ops or things like that. It's about putting in the work. And a lot of work, to be honest, it goes on behind the scenes. The meetings are behind the scenes. The working is behind the scenes. The meeting with the neighborhood association, the meeting with just different people, it all behind the scenes, and it has to happen. The work has to happen, and it has to happen behind the scenes, because you're serving the people.
Absolutely. Talk to us a little bit, Brother Travis, about what you saw with this year's midterm elections, and like what would you say would be some of the big takeaways outside of who won and who lost? But what would be some of the big lessons that we need to hold on to as a people in this country?
Yeah, one thing that was really important that really was a result that you've seen in the election, right? So for the state of Texas, the governor is Republican, the House is Republican, the Senate is Republican, and being that they've been Republican, they was able to draw the line, so to speak, the electoral districts, right? And so doing that allowed them to keep power, right? And so if you followed it, Texas at all, the U.S. Supreme Court really just knocked down the lawsuit that was put in front of them about the Texas and how they drew the lines, and so that's another reason why it's just so important to vote, right? Especially on the local level, because the people are drawing the lines, and voting is so important. And it's, you know, if people understood the power that was in voting, you would think that they would vote more.
But right? Let me ask you though, Brother Travis, like, but we're also at a time, and I would love to get your take on this, and I want to bring in Iman Heath, who is our culture crew member, you know, as we have this conversation. Iman is always got something good to say to add. But Brother Travis, one of the things that I'm seeing is that there is a very real sentiment, and I think in some cases justifiable sentiment, that we have been doing the same thing for 50, 60 years and not getting the type of results that we want, not making the type of gains. Now, not to say we haven't made any gains at all, but we have not been getting the same type of gains. And that in this year alone, as we were doing our research, there were a lot of young people who didn't feel like there was a candidate there in front of them that represented their interests. A lot of young people felt like, you know, progress was still afar. So speak to that sentiment, if you can, about that young Black people and Black folks in this country, that we need to do something different. There needs to be something dramatic, something more drastic that needs to happen to get the Democrats, the Republicans, the powers that be in this country to see Black folks beyond just a handshake and beyond just a quick smile from Barack Obama. They got to be a lot more than that.
Yeah, it is. And so a lot of times what I tell young people, because we have a youth advisory committee on the local level, and what I try to explain to them is that the power really is in getting together. In our city, as far as Black people, it's a little less than 50% Black. And, you know, you get together and you put people in position that can change things, right? You just can't keep voting for the same thing or people who don't represent your interests. And that's what's really important. I think that one of the things that I find is really hard is for people, you know, for Black people to really just to come together, because that's where the power lies.
That's very true. And Iman, what's your take on that?
I agree. To learn how to stick together But I'll also say, especially for young people, find the persons to represent us. We do have to look into their interest. I think that's the big part that discourages us from voting. However, we do have to hold ourselves accountable and find the work, do the work to find out who has our interest at heart, who will better be considerate as far as what we need to actually get it done, and look at people's track record. But I think, like Farajii said, from just not getting those wins or that Godspeed progress is what discourages us from voting. But I agree. We got to start digging into people's interest in what they have to offer to us rather than just voting for a familiar face.
That's very true. And speaking of a familiar face, Brother Travis, my concern is, we got this joker, Donald Trump, that's talking about jumping back on the ballot. That's a whole nother situation, right? Well, as JC, that's a whole nother topic. But then even more importantly, looking at 2024, looking at how Black folks can have some political gains, it doesn't seem like there are a lot of choices right now. And I'm saying this is for the president of the United States. There doesn't seem like there are a lot of choices for Black folks. That we might be seeing a Trump-Biden part 2. But I don't foresee that happen. I think there's going to be some new I think there's going to be some new people. But there's no candidate. There's that Black people can rally behind at this point. Or am I wrong in that thinking, Travis?
No, I think that's very much true, right? No one has excited the base, right? No one has excited the young people to go vote at that national level. I think, Biden, he won, but I think he won partially because Kamala. And so she was the exciting piece that people really came out and voted for. And I don't, that's an issue. That's why I said that, we have to put people in place. And I'm particularly speaking on the local level and on the state level that does excite you, that will come knock on your door, will come to your neighborhood, that will represent your interests. On a national level, the excitement just isn't there. And I don't think it's been there since Obama, really, first term Obama. But, I think that Biden is and Vice President Kamala she's really was the person that really kind of excited people of color really to come out and vote.
Right. Do you think that it was and Iman, I want to get your take on this as well, but Travis, first with you, do you think that with Kamala Harris being like, we put more on her than what she can really and truly deliver?
Definitely. Like I've talked.
Hey Travis, you had to think about it. You were like, do I want to say this?
Because in her role, she's the vice president, right? And it's interesting because in talks that I've had around town, people are saying, "Oh, well, we don't see her enough. We voted for her, but we never see her. What is she doing? What is she doing?" It really is the real question. And in that role, you really don't see it, right? They say, "Oh, well, what's her platform? Where's her level of engagement? What's going on?" I think that people just don't see her enough. But she's not the president either, right? And so you don't necessarily anticipate seeing her. When Obama was in office, you didn't see Biden all the time, right? And the same thing.
They had a nice little bromance, though.
They did. They
had a nice little bro. But let me just let's clear it up. Biden didn't like Obama at first. He really wasn't feeling him like that. And I just recently read a report that said that wasn't all love and between Biden and Obama. That he had to, because President Obama is a visionary in the political space, folks. And I don't want y'all to think about this. Like, really, President Obama, when you read some of his earlier writings and his earlier notes about how he sees politics, it's very, very like innovative, very, very different. You know what I'm saying? Very forward thinking. And here you have this forward thinking man and this man who has this other man, like in President Biden, who was a stalwart, who kept the train going. He's not going to think all the way. He's not going to be the most innovative, out of the box thinking. So you bringing those two people together, and Iman, you can speak on it. You bringing those two people together, the ideas aren't going to always be flowing well, and from the two of them. What's your take?
It can clash. It could definitely clash, but I feel like Biden understood his position, understood who he was running behind. And, you know, with Kamala, and I agree, it's like, where you at, sis? Everybody put their pearls and Converses and went to go vote, but where you at? And I do understand she's not the president, but I do feel as though we did see Biden and hear Biden a little bit more than where we seen Kamala. She was all over the place before she got elected, but afterwards it's like, all right, I'm gonna just go quiet now. So she was the fact that I will say for most people that got them out to vote, besides voting for the quote unquote lesser evil, she was the part that was like, all right, y'all, let's get our black asses up and go vote. She was the other part.
Well, if they don't treat her well, I mean, there's been reports of that. They haven't hurt Biden's team don't treat and respect Kamala, and they don't treat her well. They don't want to always put her out front. You know what I'm saying? And again, she's vice president. She's going to do the behind the scenes work. But at the end of the day, it's by her being in the historic role that she's in. They still don't respect her enough, right? And so, I mean, there are a lot of people that think that way, and I think that opens the door for us to have some conversations about what is going to be the fate of Black people politically in this country. And Brother Travis, I want to get your take on that. Like if we're seeing, say, Trump is back, or you got a DeSantis, or you got other folks that are coming on the ballot, like at this point, and I know you're a councilman and everything, and I know you're a huge advocate of voting rights and all of those things, but should Black people vote in the national election for the president, not for the other races, but at least for the president? Should we do something differently so that the way the Democrats and the Republicans can hear us?
Yeah, I don't think that we should at all go away from voting. I wouldn't advocate for that in any means. But you know, you got to hold people accountable and let them work for our vote, right? We just don't want to give every Democrat a vote just because they're Democrat, right?
Right.
Just, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's, you know, we just don't want to rubber stamp people like, oh yeah, we know we got their vote. And that shouldn't be the case. We got to hold people accountable and make them work for our vote. Let them, you know, make them give us an agenda. What are you going to do for our community? What are you going to do for us? We've been disenfranchised. Right. We've been a lot of things. And so that's the biggest thing that we have to do when it comes to thinking about this national voting.
Absolutely. We got a few moments left, Travis, and I want to get your take. Did you hear about the situation in Philadelphia with this juvenile detention center? How they're talking about possibly sending young people from the detention center in Philly down to Texas and this is just a consideration to dealing with their detention center problem. Have you heard anything like that?
I had not heard about that until I was watching your show now. I'm really surprised, but not surprised, right? There's a whole circus going on right now. When you're thinking about how Texas is sending their immigrants to New York and different cities and states across the U.S. So for them to start sending somebody back, you know, I'm sure that's going to put Texas on alarm, right? They're gonna wake up. They're gonna start looking. But I hadn't heard about that prior to this. Before your show.
Awesome. Okay. Well, you know what, brother, if you can certainly let us know what folks are saying if it comes up, or you can certainly bring it up. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm interested in hearing more about what can be done to stop that from happening. That will also ultimately can lead to breakdown of families as a result of this situation. But Brother Travis, you know, what are some of the big things that we need to know about Glen Heights, Texas? And you know, over these next couple of months, what are some of the big things that the city is going to be working on, especially for Black people?
The city just recently, maybe not recently, a few years ago passed a bond. And so one thing that we've created is a city center for the city. We're going to be opening that up on December the 9th. It has a public safety building that will house the police and fire. We have a community center now. We have a rec center now. We have a family center, which deals with our teens as well as our seniors. And then we have a new city hall. It's all in a campus-like format that we've created based off of the bond that the citizens passed. And so that's really large for our community. It's an opportunity to continue to engage with the citizens, which is always so important. Just because the complacency can always be there, and we don't want that. A city that has more engagement has a better city, and so that's one of the large things that we're working on. That's coming next month, actually. So I'm excited about that.
That's awesome. Absolutely. Brother Travis, we appreciate your time with us this afternoon. We thank you so much for taking a few moments to be with us, to talk to us about what you're doing, where you stand on things. And, we would love to bring you back on as things continue to develop in Glen Heights and just being a part of the conversation, brother. So thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love to be a part, and anything that I can do, don't feel free to reach out.
Absolutely, will do. Travis Bruton serves as the councilman out of Glen Heights, Texas. Thank you so much, brother. Folks, we got to take a final pause. When we come back, let's just have a brief conversation about Chris Brown, the American Music Awards, and this idea that Black music may be over. We'll talk about that. I'm going to share with you what Jermaine Dupree had to say about the situation as AMA canceled, they canceled Chris Brown's Michael Jackson tribute during his 40-year anniversary of Thriller. So stay tuned for that conversation. Right, coming up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20036-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, for the final few moments of today's show, we wanted to talk about the controversy that has gotten people talking on social media around Chris Brown and the American Music Awards and how they had decided to cancel Chris's tribute that he was going to do alongside Sierra, another R&B artist, for the 40th anniversary of Thriller, Michael Jackson's just classic album. And they were going to do a set where Chris Brown was going to perform a number of songs from Thriller out of respect and love that he has for the late great artist. However, that didn't happen. And when Chris Brown was awarded the Best Male Artist, R&B Artist Award at the AMAs, he was actually booed by a number of people in the audience. Yeah, he was booed, so much so that Destiny Child member Kelly Rowland basically had to tell the audience, chill out, stop the booing, give Chris his flowers, and and Chris Brown, regardless of all of the controversy of his legal battles, his issue with Rihanna and his former ex Karrueche Tran, and other issues that he's had, he has made a way for Black music. Now, this has all culminated with a number of other folks in the Black folks in the industry to speak on the situation and say that Chris Brown is still being ostracized for mistakes that he made over 10 years ago. And so Jermaine Dupri put this out there. He said this: if the American Music Awards cancel the Chris Brown performance, then that means they canceled the 40th anniversary of Thriller, which means they canceled the Michael Jackson tribute. He said in this Instagram video, he said, Black music, we in trouble. He said on Twitter, as he elaborated, I'm not just talking about this situation alone. I'm talking about the fact that we keep killing our rappers, facts. My 12-year-old daughter don't have one Black artist her and her friends can listen to, and Taylor Swift just sold more records than everybody. Let's bring in, there you go, a picture of Chris Brown, who's been around for like 20 years, y'all. Damn. He's been around a long time. Let's bring in Iman Keith, Culture Crew member. Iman, do you agree with Jermaine Dupri on this? Is Black music in trouble because they canceled this?
Black, if we let that music in general, every genre roots back to Black people. We are music. We are the culture. We are like, it's us. So no, we're not in trouble at all. Not at all. By the American Music Awards standard, that's a group of people. Even though it says America, it is no, no, absolutely not.
So Janine posted, she said, why are we still supporting these white award shows?
Exactly. Why would we give them the thought to think that they have the power to end or negatively affect Black music? They can't. We are music. Country music is ours too. Country music, it all starts with us.
Right. So, I mean, I feel like maybe Black, and look to Jermaine Dupri's point, because I feel like I'm in the same space, right? I'm trying to find music for the children. Like, when Nir and I were talking about this earlier today, and it was like, yo, what are the artists for Black children to listen to nowadays?
I mean, if I had children, some of these artists.
Okay, again, I'm saying, hypothetically speaking, Iman, which Black artist would you want your children to listen to at the age of 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14? Which Black artist?
Other than 90s R&B, I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer. I don't know if my children will be the impressionable type, but I don't have an answer. Everything is cute, cut, shoot, kill, sex this, sex that. So
and this is the music, and it's the unfortunate part is, of course, we know that this is not all of Black music, right? You do have smooth R&B, you still have jazz and all of that. But I'm saying in the mainstream R&B, even in the hip hop genre, you know, the popular stuff among young people, right? Black youth, there really isn't any artist that speaks to them. And look, I grew up in a time, of course, y'all probably remember the boy bands era, right? When you had like you had the white boy bands of like Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and all of them guys, right? And look, I bet you, for a lot of people in the crew, online culture crew, y'all probably listen to them joints all the time religiously. Y'all used to listen to NSYNC and all them Backstreet Boys and all that stuff, right? But then we had like a 112, Boys to Men, obviously. You know what I'm saying? Do you have these groups? But when you start to look at where Black music is, and I'm like Jermaine Dupri, like, oh, my sons, I got them listening to Imagine Dragons. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I listen to Imagine Dragons. We listening to, because it's a different sound for them. And I know some Black folks probably like, what? Imagine Dragons? Like, yeah.
That's my sound. That's my sound.
You know what I mean? That's the sound, that's the band. You know what I mean? That's the feel that we in, because I think Black music, we are at a point where we got to figure out what our identity is going to be in connection to where our consciousness is. Like, in this day and time, is it really the best messaging to put out that you want to shoot and kill people, or you want to put out this high level of materialism, telling people, man, get that money, and that's the only thing that matters in life? Is this the right day and time as we go through an inflation, we go through violence in our streets, as we go through all of these social issues? Is this the right time to put out certain messages? And I agree with Jermaine Dupri. Like, man, like, what do you want to put in the heads of your children? Not somebody else's children, your children. What do you want them to listen to? Would you let them listen to? And look, no shade on none of these sisters, but would you let your daughters listen to Meg, Cardi? No. And you know what? They have their place, because they say, I've heard Cardi say this. She said, well, I make adult music. So to her credit, I've heard her say it. I agree with you, Cardi. You know where you fit in the big scheme of things. So I applaud you for that. But there are some women that expose their daughter to that level of music very early on. Some guys expose their sons to certain music very early on, talking about everything from drug dealing and shooting.
Yeah, G Herbo's son, G Herbo, he's a rapper. His son, the way that child, the things I've seen him say on social media as far as, gang banging and I'm this, I'm that. And he's a baby. I want to say maybe 5 or 4.
Dang.
He's a kid. And yeah, even his father has influenced, and it might not have been on purpose. I'll definitely say it might not have been on purpose, but his dad has, in a way, helped influence, this mindset as a kid. So it's tough.
It is very tough. Know your worth. You checked in and said anything old school. My kids love that old school, hate this new crap. We had them on all that old school music. Yeah, you're going to have to go back into the crates to let your children listen to something. Patricia, you checked in. And Know Your Worth, thank you. Patricia, you checked in and said Chris Brown's musical ability cannot be challenged, and it is a slight against Michael Jackson and Chris Brown. Facts. I think there was a wrong decision. Now, the reason that they decided to do it is because they said in this industry, we make changes at the last time, and we just couldn't make it work and fit according to the programming of the thing. But that could just be a boilerplate explanation.
I highly disagree. This cancel culture bullshit is what created this.
Yeah.
The backlash of, I guess, showing that in the way they support Chris Brown, and Michael Jackson's that documentary, Michael Jackson, I think Leaving Neverland or Escaping Neverland, the backlash that putting those two together could cause the AMA Awards. I think that's the issue. From him having his domestic issues is the reason why he may have been booed. The timing of, this documentary coming out or being out, I think that's the issue. They don't want any backlash.
That is it. I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. Leaving Neverland is supposed to drop again, right?
I think so. I haven't kept up with it. I don't really care for the Michael Jackson allegations because he's dead. He was going. These allegations didn't start until he wanted to start buying his masters back from Sony, I believe. That's when all these molested children allegations started. So I'm not saying he didn't do it. However, it's just very ironic and very convenient that when he started wanting to buy his masters back, And when the Beatles, I believe Sony wanted to buy his Beatles masters, the Beatles or whoever he had, I can't remember whose catalog he has, but these allegations didn't start until then. So
absolutely. Now, Chris Big, who's watching right now, he said, I also let my kids listen to hella gangster rap, LOL, because it's dope as.
I mean, my kids gonna know who NWA is, so I mean, I guess
they could know who certain people, but I ain't gonna let them listen to it, Chris. I'm sorry, bro. Like that's just the difference between. I mean, you can expose your children to whoever you want to expose them. I know I'm not letting my son listen to that. I'm not letting him listen to that.
Certain songs. Now, Migos, certain songs you can't.
I mean, certain songs it's gonna be catchy. But here's my big thing on this, right? Like I think, and this is a much bigger conversation. We want our children to grow up so damn fast. Like we think that soon as they can speak words and they can snap their fingers and they can put coherent thoughts together, that we can expose them. And we always come up with something. They don't know what we're talking about. They don't know what we're talking about, and that's not true. That's not true. Like they're still in their formative years.
Some of us don't. I'll say back in the day when I heard Peaches and Cream on the radio, I thought at my childlike mind they were talking about peaches in a bowl with whipped cream on top. That's what I thought as a kid. So some children really don't know because I thought you were peaches and cream.
But I'm just saying, like, okay, that is a metaphor. That was kind of under the radar. But that's not the case for certain music nowadays. The case for certain music now is much more blatant, much more obvious, much more explicit in the language. And I'm saying to us, what's the reason that we're holding on? Like, again, I'm not trying to tell people how to raise their children. I'm just saying the end result. What is the thinking behind it? Is it just because it sounds good? But do we think about the messaging? Because again, those are the formative years of a child's life when you're talking about the first 10 years, the first 11, 12 years, formative years. So if you're in your house saying that you are the N-word or whatever the case may be, and then it's confirmed in the music, what do you think your son or your daughter is going to think of themselves? How do you think they're going to think of themselves? Those are the things. And it's like we gotta think deeper in terms of the impact of what we say, what we do, those things. And it's just about accountability. We talk about that among political leaders, but we got to hold ourselves accountable as parents and community members, right? To say, you know what, my son or daughter, of course they're going to be exposed to that because that's the craziness of America. But they don't have to be exposed so early. And they can let them be children. Just let them be children. I tell my son that, tell my daughter, let them be children. They don't need to know about the hard life of growing up in poverty and crack, if that's not their reality. They don't need to know about all of the stuff that we dance to in some of these songs. Let them be children. That's all right. As long as you don't put your bill in their names, just let them be children.
Because Farajii, you know some kids got light bills.
Kids got credit cards at 6 years old. Like, dang. You ain't like, man, his credit is exquisite. He doesn't have any because he ain't buying nothing.
Credit score 800.
You're like, dang. Mr. Johnson, your credit score is immaculate. We're like, yeah, well, it's technically not mine. It's hers.
That's black people. That's black people.
I'm telling you, man, like, let's let them be chill. But very quickly, to go back to Chris Brown, I think that we need to have a larger conversation about black music. Because to Jermaine Dupri's point, Taylor Swift music, I listen to Taylor Swift music. If it's good music, man, it's good music.
I listen to old singles, yeah.
I'm just saying, if you listen to some of her music, like if it's good music, it's good music. And I need messages that's going to inspire me, that's going to grow. I'm just in a different place. Even I listened to Nas's new stuff. His stuff is really good. Like King's Disease 3 hot is grown man music. I can actually play Nas's albums of All King Disease 1, 2, and 3 with my son in the car. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because he's gotten to another level. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's okay. And artists act like they can't appeal to the greater part of ourselves. Like, we got to keep putting this stuff out there. No, it doesn't. But then to Chris Brown's situation, like, yeah, we could be mad, but has he made a change? Has he decided to move? You know, has there been a change in all of that? That situation happened in 2009, folks. I think everybody has an opportunity to be redeemed. That's how I feel. You know what I'm saying? Like, unless you're doing something really, really crazy, but, you know, I don't know. I don't know. So that's just what it is. So, you know, we will see, like, how this conversation will move forward. But I think the AMA, they got real political when it comes to Chris Brown and Michael Jackson, as if some of their white artists haven't done worse. Woo. They got a whole movie coming out about Phil Spector.
Elvis, a whole pedophile. Elvis, y'all beloved Elvis Presley is a whole pedophile and a thief. So
come on, man.
Let's not go there.
Stop it. Let's just stop. Anyway, all right, Iman, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for spending a little extra time with us today here on The Culture. Always glad to have you on Tuesdays. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving.
Yes, great. I'm ready to eat. Good God, I'm ready to eat. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Plates. I'm ready to eat.
Absolutely. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, and God willing, we'll be reconnecting with you next week. Thank you, Iman, for being so good for the culture.
Thank y'all.
Absolutely. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you. I want to thank my dynamic team, King Keenan, Ariel, Joel. Thank you. My wonderful folks in the control room making the show happen today. Thank you. And of course, I want to thank our very special guest. We had Taylor Ferguson, who is an activist. We got to bring Taylor back on and have more conversations. Councilman Travis Bruton out of Glen Heights, Texas. Big shout out to Texas. And we got to bring him back as well. And of course, I can't thank you enough as the Online Culture Crew. Thank you for being a part of the conversations today here on The Culture. Make sure y'all continue to support us here at Black Star Network. You can go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you subscribe, download the app, subscribe for free, and just be there to support us as we are doing the great work of telling our story and pleading our case. Make sure you support us. You can support us right now at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, follow us on our social media platforms at Black Star Network on IG and Black Star Network on Twitter. We would love to have you join us. Also, while you're on there online, make sure you follow yours truly, Farajii Muhammad. You can find me at The Real Farajii on IG, and I'm Farajii on Twitter. I would love to connect with you, build with you, and let's continue to build the community out of the Online Culture Crew. Next week, we got some more crew members that are going to be checking in. We want to hear from some other dynamic voices. It's a lot of good stuff that we got planned for you next week. So y'all make sure y'all stay tuned for that. That's it for me, y'all. Next couple of days, we will be taking a break, a much needed break because of Thanksgiving. So to all of you out there, I hope and pray that you take time to spend with your family this week. And let us come together in a space of unity to recommit ourselves to our community, to each other, and to find a way to find peace and, more importantly, to make progress during this time. There are so many things happening in Black America at this point. And so we need to come back to the conversation, God willing, on Monday in a renewed spirit. So get some rest, enjoy yourself. Don't be so uptight about life. Just enjoy yourself, enjoy being around the people that you love and you hold near and dear to your heart. And let's come back to the table. More importantly, let's come back to the table and let's make sure that we get ready to do the great work that we are called upon. I thank y'all so much for tuning in. Thank you for the continued support. Stay tuned at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Roland Martin Unfiltered is coming at you. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk on Monday for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Have a great week, folks. Talk to you soon. Peace.